MVP.
One in the air, left center field, back it goes, Harper, the swing of his life!
You never get ahead of yourself. As
I know Ren do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 76. Al, play the song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I was thinking on my ride home if I could get it on the StreamYard, but I couldn't. I didn't have any time.
Gotcha. Well, I was listening to that intro video, and rent has been due, but I don't think rent's been paid lately. I can tell you that.
Yeah, no. Rent we're backlogged at this point. We got the landlord breathing down our necks.
The eviction note is going up soon, but tonight's episode, Al, number 76, we mentioned, obviously our hometown 76ers is brought to you by, can you name the number 76 in Sixers history? Not that difficult.
Yeah, Sean Bradley, 7
the big man. Sean Bradley.
Of course.
Next question. Sean Bradley was obviously drafted number 2 overall in 1993, I believe. Do you know who was number 1 and number 3 in that draft?
Number 1 and 3 was that? Am I early on this? Was that Weber?
That was Chris Webber, number 1.
Yeah, and then was that he got traded for 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he was it Penny?
It was Penny Hardaway. It's good knowledge by you.
Dude, 90s draft. Come on, man. It's the wheelhouse.
Yeah, Sixers screwed that draft up, obviously.
Yeah. Sean Bradley. Come on, man.
Dude, didn't he die in a bike accident or something? He's paralyzed, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Let's get some Sean Bradley information for the fans real quick.
He really paved the way for big white stiffs to get drafted, though. Like, he walked so Todd McCullough could run. The pinball king, Todd McCullough.
Traumatic spinal cord injury after a bike accident. I think he got hit by a car while riding his bike.
Well, that's no joke. As somebody
how do you hit that guy?
Well, I would imagine it would take just like the slightest tap, though, when you're 7'6" riding a bike to just like go out of control.
Yeah, the aerodynamics, they probably don't play in your favor there.
Yeah, and as I was going to say, as somebody who trained for and ran a sprint triathlon 2 years ago, and we're going to get into this in our third segment, if you haven't ridden a bike fast since you were a kid, doing it as an adult, it's kind of scary, dude.
Yeah, like I don't. They say it's like riding a bike, but riding a bike is I got on one of those motorized ones a few years ago. Those electric ones.
Yeah,
I was scared to death.
Yeah, dude, you go fast.
All you gotta do is hit one stick, and you're flipping over. It's a dangerous time for us to be alive. But again, more to come on segment 3. Make sure you stay tuned to that one because it's going to be a really good segment 3 tonight. But we do have to do segment 1, Al. But before we do, again, I want to mention tonight's episode and the 3K podcast is a proud partner of SeatGeek. Use the promo code 3Keystone, the number 3 Keystone, for $20 off your first order. If you're going to go to any games, comedy shows, concerts, SeatGeek's the place to go get your tickets. Again, use the promo code 3Keystone for $20 off. Al, any idea what the tickets are going for this coming Christmas Day?
They're expensive. They actually went up from a week ago and 2 weeks ago. The lowest ticket right now on SeatGeek is $185. But if you're willing to wait until week 18 and you want to make the ride up to MetLife, you can catch the Eagles-Giants in week 18 action for $72. And with that $20 off, you're getting in for $52.
It's not a bad deal, and that game may mean a lot more than we thought it would a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. Yep. We could be fighting for the 4 seed, the 6. Who knows at that point?
Eagles lose last night to the Seattle Seahawks by 320-17. The third L in a row for the Birds, who have obviously not looked good. Al, I'm just going to cut right to the point. Let's get to it. Are the Eagles frauds?
I mean, All season long, we've been making excuses. All season long, we've been pretending like the problems weren't there. And after 3 straight losses, I think it's pretty clear that this team is fraudulent. This team was riding the high of a 10-1 record, and we said it many times that winning cures everything, and winning hides all the ailments and all the weaknesses. And now, over the last 3 weeks, they've gotten exposed not just by 2 of the top teams in the NFL, but now in a middle of the pack team in the Seattle Seahawks in a game that they had their hands wrapped around their throats in the second half going into the fourth quarter, despite it being a 7-point game. If I told you we would have a 7-point lead in a game that Drew Lock was starting for the Seahawks, in a game that DK Metcalf only had 1 reception to that point for the Seahawks, you would have said, okay, that's ball game, night. But that was not the case. So are they fraudulent? I think they are fraudulent. And I would have to agree with Matt McConaughey in the chat. That game was worse than a colonoscopy, Matt.
And it hasn't just been this week. It's been the last few weeks. But I'm gonna take it a little bit easier than you are. It's going to depend what you define as fraudulent. Are they fraudulent as Super Bowl contenders? At this point in time, it's pretty easy to say yes. Are they as fraudulent as a good football team? I think it's just more of they've lost their confidence. There's no question about that in regards to who they are. And it seems like they've lost their togetherness. There seems to be a little bit of finger pointing. Obviously we see Sean Desai get demoted midweek. AJ Brown's on Twitter. He's calling people out this week. He's calling out the fan base. Slay is having issues with some of the issues that the fans taken. So I think there's some sensitive souls and there's some confidence that's been lost on this team. They just can't seem to make those adjustments to get out of this funk. And I don't know if it's going to take this soft schedule coming in to do that. I still think they're a good football team, but they've definitely demoted themselves from being Super Bowl contenders at this point in time.
Yeah, and you've been on top of Jalen Hurts' body language in the past. The whole team's body language at this point just looks sour. Jason Kelce getting called for a weird false start, but just the way he throws his head back and kind of sighs to himself, like it's just a different look than what we saw from last year's team. It's not the same. And then you have guys like Brandon Graham who all of a sudden are playing the underdog card. Oh, well, we're better as underdogs. Like, that's your excuse for losing 3 straight. You just want to flip the switch now. You're not favorites anymore. You're underdogs because you got decimated in 2 games and you got embarrassed in the last game. I just fraudulent as champions, yes. And fraudulent as far as, dude, I think this team is right where we said last week. This team is in danger of being the 2023 version of the Minnesota Vikings team from last year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I think the one thing that you said there is extremely key is you said to the way they looked last year. Because I thought you were going to say earlier this year, but they haven't had the look all season.
Nope.
And we've talked about it time and time again that this team just seemed to get away with it. And now it's come back to haunt them. It's not the same team as last year. And there's a lot missing, and we'll dissect a little bit as we go further. But here's one thing: as I watched the game last night, and I watched again a little bit this morning, what aspect of the game are they actually good at right now? The run defense is not – the run defense was elite earlier this year. The run defense is not good. The pass defense is not good. The rush offense is not good. The pass offense is not good. You say they kick good. They're good at kicking field goals.
Jake the Make. That's what I was going to say. Jake Elliott. That's about it. And when you compare to last year this team was number 1 in the league in sack percentage. They 11% of the time, but that number was humongous, even compared to this year. Now they're down to 23rd in the league. They're giving up 255.4 pass yards a game. That's 28th in the league. Opponents are scoring a touchdown in the red zone 67% of the time. That's 28th in the league. They're still dead last in third down percentage on defense. You said it. This team's doing nothing well other than Jake Elliott making field goals. So I don't know what there is for this team at this point to go back into a locker room after a loss or to go back into a building during the middle of the week and say, hey, at least we can hang our hats on this. I don't know what that is at this point. The tush push? Is that it?
Yeah, they are excellent at that. As you've seen other teams try and do it around the league and they can't seem to do it. So the tush push is still working, believe it or not. I wanted to talk a little Jalen Hurts. I mean, we have to at this point. He's the quarterback of the team. He's the leader of the team. Obviously gets the monster contract this offseason to solidify himself. He's regressed this year. There's no question about it. He's tied for the league lead in turnovers. His numbers are a lot more in line with his 2021 season than his 2022 season. So who is the real Jalen Hurts to you? And did we get suckered to signing a mid-level quarterback to a elite level contract?
Who is the real Jalen Hurts? I had a text today that said, "Is Jalen Hurts just Cam Newton?" There was a lot of talk on the radio and on the internet about Jalen Hurts just being Carson Wentz. I don't
Carson Wentz talk.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite that bad. I do think he's a better passer than we're seeing this year. What worries me the most this year is I think they've fallen in love with the tush push. I think they've put too much stock into that play, and they look so forward to getting it to 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, or on the goal line at the 1 yard line. Everything else has gone by the wayside. I mean, we saw a clip online that you had posted to our Twitter account of Christian McCaffrey calling out the play, the quarterback draw before it even gets ran. I sat there and I said the same thing, and on the touchdown play as well. You can just tell what plays are coming before the ball gets snapped. And if we can do that, you and me sitting on our couches at home, what are NFL defensive coordinators doing? This team is predictable, and I don't think that's not a detriment to Jalen Hurts. I mean, he can only run the plays that are getting called. I still think when you look at his numbers, his on-target throws, his bad throw percentage is still the lowest it's been in his career. He's still throwing accurate balls. I think the play calling is still just holding him back.
So good points there. This is my biggest concern about what I'm seeing from Jalen Hurts is I look at a guy like Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, and I look what he's done for different quarterbacks along the way. Specifically, obviously, what he did with Jimmy Garoppolo, getting him to a Super Bowl. He made Nick Mullins look decent in San Francisco for a short period of time. He turned Matt Ryan into an MVP. Matt Ryan, obviously a very, very good quarterback, but the MVP level season was elite for him and way above his career averages. And now you look what he's doing with Brock Purdy, right? He's turned Brock Purdy into what looks like will be an MVP season, which is when we talked about this guy this time last year, he was a complete unknown, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yep. And
my concern is, and I truly believe that Shane Steichen is that elite level of a coach. And he's now gone into Indianapolis and made Gardner Minshew into a guy who may lead the Indianapolis Colts to a playoff berth, which is, we saw Gardner play last year. And, while I think he's a capable backup, I don't think any of us saw him as a playoff level starting quarterback, especially on a team that I wouldn't say Indianapolis has an elite level defense or an elite level run game at this point in time. He's really done a lot of the legwork there. And I'm worried that Shane Steichen elevated Jalen Hurts to a level last year that maybe he's not going to be able to get back to. Maybe he is this version here, which is very much in line with what he was in 2021. That's my concern, is that he got coached up, and this offense got coached up last year by a guy who may end up being one of the better coaches in the NFL.
It certainly looks that way, but I do think that as much as maybe Steichen helped the situation and helped Jalen Hurts, I do think that this year's coaching staff is bringing him down. So I think he's somewhere maybe in that middle of being helped and being hurt by the staffs from this year and last year. And if you're going to say that about Shane Steichen, then you have to also give Jonathan Gannon his flowers, because this defense looks lost this year versus last year. And I know, and we've talked about all of the pieces that have gone missing. They lost, 5 starters on the defensive side of the football. But early on in the year, I mean, it did look like they were pushing some of the right buttons, as far as Jalen Carter looking great, as far as Jordan Davis looking great, as far as Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat looking great. So, I agree with you that Shane Steichen, I think, did a lot more than we gave him credit for, but I think maybe Jonathan Gannon did too.
We've talked a lot about the coordinators this year, and Brian Johnson has not done a very good job. We mentioned the play calling, how predictable it's been, but there was some plays on Twitter that they showed where Jalen has had open guys over the middle and has chosen not to throw those passes. So you can't blame him completely. And I said this to you earlier, I'm tired of Brian Johnson and Sean Desai taking all the heat when nobody says anything about Nick Sirianni. He's the head coach of the football team. And again, I said this last week, I don't think he's a very good X's and O's coach. I think he's a motivator. I think he thinks he's a tough guy. And I don't think he's doing a very good job handling the situation because it's almost like the bully that's gotten punched in the face and he doesn't know how to handle it because he's not capable of coaching the X's and O's of the football team. How many times do we have to blame the guys under him before we blame him? Again, it's just like any other job, right? You're not doing your job and somebody's giving you a warning over and over again. Eventually, your supervisor has to do something about it.
I don't disagree with that. I do think that he gets the pass because of what you said, because of the expectations from the fan base. We realize he's a motivator. We realize he's not an X's and O's guy. So when that's the part of the on-field product that looks like it's lacking, I think it's easier to blame the two new coordinators, the guys that are calling the plays. I'm not saying that it's right, but just an analogy as far as in the teaching world, there are some teachers that are fantastic classroom management. You walk into a classroom, the kids are engaged, but they don't know the content. And then you have vice versa, teachers that know the content, but they aren't good classroom managers. They don't know how to deliver the content. And I think that Nick Sirianni is the same way. I don't think he's an X's and O's guy, like you said. I think he's a guy that's going to motivate, that's going to get his guys going, but he does need those coordinators that can get the plays called on the field at the right times, the right personnel, the right formations. And this year, I just don't think those things are meshing well.
Sure, I completely understand it, but let's go back to your analogy there. If you're a teacher and you're allowed to bring in assistant teachers and you are great at content, then you need to bring in guys who are your yang to your yin. You know, you need to bring in those guys who all of a sudden now are good classroom managers. We can't have, it's your job to bring in the guys who are going to help you at what you're not good at and fill those voids. And he didn't do that.
Yeah, that's absolutely a mistake on his part. 100%. He whiffed with these two guys. As far as right now, looking at 15 weeks in the NFL season, these hires were bad hires.
And it's obviously played itself out to be even more so because this week they made a major change on the defensive staff, and Sean Desai pretty much gets demoted, and Matt Patricia comes over to take over the defensive coordinator role in what can only really be seen as a panic move from the defense on that end, because who makes a change this late in the season on the coordinator side for a team that's going to be in the playoffs to do something like that? There had to be major issues. And, you know, we talked earlier, I mentioned I had a source inside in the team that said there was a major coaching issue and some of the players disrespecting the coaches. It had to be on that side of the football for something like that to happen.
Yeah, this is something that's it's a disaster. It's a disaster because it's something that's either been ongoing, that they've been trying to just wait week to week to see if it would fix itself, or there's a major catastrophe that has happened in the last week or two where they had to make the change. And I don't think it's that. I think this is something that's it's almost like there was a leak in the roof and it was dripping, and then finally it just burst through, and now we have a flood in the bedroom. And Nick Sirianni's up there in his ladder with his duct tape and his Flex Seal trying to patch it up with Matt Patricia. And it's not working. It's not going to work. It's too late in the season. We talk about this in the NBA when you bring in a big trade, a big acquisition. It never works out. They never win a title. Have you ever seen an NFL team make a change like this late into the season and it ends up working out in their favor and they go on to have success in the postseason? Because I can't think of this ever happening in the history of the league.
So I saw on Twitter the Ravens did it on the offensive side of the ball a few years ago. I think it was Cam Cameron may have gotten the job. And it worked out okay for them, but it's few and far between that something like this works. And listen, the writing was on the wall when the report came out earlier this week that Kevin Byard went to Sean Desai and said the defensive backs want to do the scouting report this week. And they were pretty much told that they could do that. And I think as a coach, if you're not going to take responsibility for doing the scouting reports and you're going to let the players, run amok and do what they want to do, I think as a coach that you lost all credibility at that point.
Yeah, and it just sounds like a guy who was in over his head. He comes from a situation in Seattle where the expectations are non-existent. The expectations are to maybe sneak into the playoffs, and then he goes to a Super Bowl favorite team with a fan base and an organization that is just constantly looking over your shoulder and checking in on you and seeing what it is that you're doing right, and they're saying what it is that you're doing wrong. And this season, he's done a lot more wrong than right.
No doubt. Let's reset. 10-4. There's 3 games left. We have the Giants twice, and then sandwiched in between, we have the Arizona Cardinals at home. They are currently tied with the Dallas Cowboys. The report now is if they win out, it will come down to strength of victory, I believe, or strength versus common opponents, which we can't figure out at this point because it'll depend on how the other teams perform during the season. But the belief is if the Eagles win out, they will win the division. Are you confident that they can go 3-0 in this stretch?
No, not anymore. How can you be? I don't know how you can be. New York has shown that they're at least a tough football team at this point in the season. They're bad. They don't have the talent that the Eagles have, but the Eagles' talent isn't playing to the level that they should be. So I can't. How can you sit here after you just watch these 3 games and say that you're confident that the Eagles are going to go 3-0 against any 3 teams in the National Football League?
It's a great point. I do think they're going to end up running the table. The Vegas line obviously telling something. We're going to talk a little bit. Eagles 10.5-point favorites going into
11
now against the New York Giants. Al, if I gun to your head, said I can give you one of 2 bets, either the Eagles cover the 11 or the Giants beat the Eagles outright. Where are you going?
Yeah, if you're gun ahead, I think I have to take. Neither's going to happen. Neither's going to happen. I guess I have to take the Birds, despite what I just said about them not winning 3 straight games. I have to take the Eagles giving 11 points, but I don't think that's going to happen. At home, look, we watched a San Francisco 49ers team lose 3 straight games to 3 at the time. Questionable teams, Cleveland, Minnesota, and Cincinnati. And then they came off and they came back and rattled 6 straight wins after a bye. Who's to say Philadelphia might not at least have 1 in the tank here at home? Dude, can you imagine if they lose this game this week? Can you in front of the home fans?
The Boo Birds will be out completely. The Santas will be dressed up. They'll be throwing
the
beer
batteries,
onto the field.
Everything might be out, dude.
I can't even imagine. But if there's not anything else you want to talk about from this week's game, we can get into our predictions.
Well, what would you take? You taking -11 or are you taking the Giants money line?
So I guess I'll start off with my prediction. I have the Eagles winning 26-9 this week. So I have them covering the spread. To me, the Giants 2-6 on the road this year. They did win 3 games in a row before getting smashed around by the Saints this week. I think Tommy DeVito had his moment. I think it's now time that he kind of fades into the limelight. The game is on Christmas, which means these Giants players who are checked out are going to be a little bit distracted this week. There's a lot going on. They're not playing for anything. I think that the organization is at this point now where, hey, we won 3 games in a row before the Saints game. It may be in our best interest if we play some of the younger guys and kind of fade into make sure we get ourselves a better draft pick for next year. I think they get it right this week, but I don't necessarily think a big Eagles win means anything because you're not going to know anything until the playoffs based on the 3 teams that they're playing, unless they lose these games, in which case you're going to learn a lot. But winning these games doesn't really mean anything because of who they're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they put themselves in a bad spot because now it's like if they win, it doesn't matter. No one's going to give them the credit. And if they lose, then it's just another look at this team. This team is fraudulent.
Absolutely. What's your prediction then? Give me a score.
I don't trust this Eagles team. But as I said, the Giants still are really bad. Cutlets is playing, right? DeVito's playing.
Yeah, DeVito.
Yeah. Listen, I think he's going to make us sweat maybe in the 4th quarter. But the Eagles are going to hang on. And let's say a score of something ugly like 23-20.
Oh, you have it really close.
Yeah, how can you trust this team to beat a team by more than a score at this point?
I completely understand. I think they bounce back, and that line is telling you something for sure.
The line is telling you something. I do agree with that.
But that's not the biggest game this weekend. Myself and Chris Guest in the fantasy football semifinals.
Oh, head to head.
Yeah, so I'm going to hope those Twins act up this week and maybe forgets to set a lineup.
Wow, he couldn't join us for this going into that.
He is the favorite. He has the better team, but I did beat him twice in the regular season, so I got his number.
Yeah, and it's fraudulent that when they say about beating a team 3 times, it's actually in your favor.
That's true. We found that out last year when the Eagles played the Giants in the playoffs.
That's right. All right. Well, you gonna set a line? I'll take a side.
In the fantasy game?
Yeah.
I'd say I'll get you an exact line. I'll see what CBS Sports Line is saying right now. Pull up the scoring preview. Assuming the lineups are set, and mine is, it's Chris -2.
Wow, tight.
Tight games.
All right. Well,
Jalen Hurts going for guest. Dak Prescott going for me, baby.
well, leading into our best bet segment, maybe Adam +2 will be my best bet this week.
Whew, got his number, that's for sure.
See if I can keep the streak going here.
Let's get into our best bets for the week. You hit again this week. Easy win for you, the Indianapolis Colts.
Easy.
And I got screwed. I absolutely got screwed over to end my streak. Obviously we put these picks out on Tuesday. There's a lot that goes on during the week. And listen, sometimes we're on the better side of the line. Sometimes we get burnt. I took the Bengals -3.5. The game ended up closing at Bengals -3. The Bengals ended up winning by 3. Would have been a push if I played it a little bit later in the week. But, hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And sometimes you're on the better half of that movement. Sometimes you're not.
Yeah,
so
pushes never hurt you.
Pushes never hurt you is right. I think we both went 2 and 3 for the week overall, but you hit your best bet, so we give you an extra unit there. But hit me with your best bet for week 15.
All right, I believe this is for 7 straight, if I'm not mistaken. My
16.
best
Week 16.
Week 16. My best bet for the week is going to be Green Bay given 4 at Carolina. Carolina is coming off a rare win. And this, to me, does not look like a team that can string together even 2 wins in a row. They are 1-7-1 against the spread in games against non-divisional opponents. And I found out today that they have never had the lead in the fourth quarter of any game this season. Is that – well, no, except for the losses. The losses. So that's some kind of a record. The Green Bay Packers are coming off of a loss. And I know that at this point, the playoff odds are slim for them, but they need to have this win. They're still playing to potentially get into the playoffs. They are only 1 game back of the wild card, even though they're currently in 11th place. So I'll take the Packers to cover the 4 points. I think they win by between 7 and 14.
All right. I'm going to go with a team I've actually faded a lot here on these best bets. I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs laying 10. I don't love to lay a lot of points, but they'll be home for the Las Vegas Raiders. I mentioned it with the Eagles and the Giants. I think you're going to get to the point in this season where these games that don't matter for some of these teams, you're going to see them checking out a little bit. And this game obviously still means a lot to Kansas City, who's fighting for seeding. I think they found their seed legs a little bit this week against New England, putting up 27 points in that one. They already beat the Raiders by 14 down in Vegas. And I think it's time. Andy Reid, December. Patrick Mahomes, December. If they're going to get on a roll and make some noise in the playoffs, it starts with these last 3 or 4 games for them and getting the ball rolling. I like the Chiefs to win by at least 2 touchdowns on Sunday or Monday. I'm not sure when the game is, to be honest with you.
Who makes it further in the playoffs this year, the Eagles or the Chiefs? I know I'm putting you on the spot because you're trying to think of matchups and everything else.
If I had to bet money on it right now, it's Kansas City.
Yeah, I would think so too. I'm trying to real quick pull up the playoff matchup as of right now. It looks like the Chiefs right now would be matched up against the Bengals at home.
They win that game, especially without Burrow.
They win that. If they win that game, then they go to Miami, assuming Miami would beat the Colts.
That's winnable for sure.
I mean, with Tyreek Hill, I don't think they win that game. I think Miami wins that game.
Kansas City beat them earlier this year in London or wherever it was. Germany.
Yeah, it's a different Kansas City team now, man. They're struggling.
There's no doubt about that. I'm just saying that's a winnable game. I'm not saying they would win that game, but I see that as more winnable than. Although if the Eagles get the Lions at home, they can win that game.
Well, right now we're in 5th, so we're going to Tampa Bay and then we're going to San Fran unless there's an upset.
Right, they're not winning in San Fran, but no. I think if they win a division, they would end up getting the Lions unless something stupid happened. We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, no, I just threw that out there for fun, just because I often think about Kansas City, and just their fan base must be just as impatient as we are right now.
100%. We got to talk to our boy Chris Style about that.
Yeah, we'll check in.
All right, let's move on to segment 2. Usually we do a national sports story, but listen, there's a basketball team in this city that's been playing well over the past few weeks, and we haven't talked too much about them, and that's our Philadelphia 76ers. And for episode 76, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about them. They had their 6-game winning streak snapped last night by the Chicago Bulls. On the season, they are 18-8 overall. And ready for some of these stats, Al?
Let's go.
This was as of this morning. They are first in the NBA in offense. They are sixth in the NBA in defense. They are third in rebounding. They're sixth in turnovers, first in net rating, first in free throw rate, sixth in three-point percentage. Are you buying into this dominance, or are you still being cautious with this team as we move forward?
First of all, I want to say that it's funny how much your tone and what you have planned to talk about on a show can change with just one game. Now, obviously, it's not like all of a sudden panic mode because they lost the game to the Bulls, but some things changed because of the way that game ended last night for sure. This team right now, though, kind of reminds me of last year's Eagles team because they're playing what is a very easy schedule. They're somewhere down in like the mid-20s as far as strength of schedule goes right now.
So real quick on that note before you say, they had played the hardest schedule in the league until the last 6 games when they went Washington, Detroit. Who else am I missing in there? There was another team.
Charlotte,
and then Chicago. Before that, now they're at like 27th in the league in schedule.
Yeah, but they are embarrassing these teams. They are boat rate like a dominance that we've never seen from the Sixers before.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, so it's kind of strange to watch. Now, I am continuing to buy in on the Sixers, and it's like I've said before, it has nothing to do with. It has little to do with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey because we've seen it before in the regular season from those two. Maybe not to this degree. Joel Embiid is definitely turning it up a notch against some of this inferior competition. But I'm buying in because of Nick Nurse. And I think that the more time this team spends together and the more time Nick Nurse is able to kind of see what this team does, not only against the inferior opponents, but against the Bostons, the Milwaukees, the Indianas, the Clevelands, I think that he's going to be able to put that puzzle together in time for the postseason. Like I said, they're imposing their will. I understand that they are 2-4 against Boston, Milwaukee, and Indiana combined this year. Joel Embiid, though, this is a dominance that we've never seen from anyone in Philadelphia. I never got to see Wilt play, so I'm going to count him out. But 34.4 points on 64.5 true shooting percentage, 11.8 boards, a career-high 6 assists per game, and he's only playing 34 minutes a game. That's crazy. Like, the dude isn't even playing whole fourth quarters. He, quite frankly, right now, just looks unstoppable. He's doing it all in the first quarter. He's almost putting up double-doubles in the first quarter. So this is just an invigorated Joel Embiid that we haven't seen quite to this level before. And I'm just hoping that it'll carry over, but I know we have to talk about the end of the Bulls game. I know we'll get into that.
All right. I'm always portrayed on this podcast, especially by my boy Chris, as being anti-Embiid. So let me give Joel his flowers for what he's done this year. You mentioned 34-12, career high 6 assists. He has 30 points and 10 rebounds in 11 straight games, which is a Philadelphia 76ers record. He is, without a doubt, a top 2 regular season player in the NBA right now. It's him and Jokic, and then there's a gap. And you can put Giannis, you can talk Luka. He's above those guys. He's the most. Him and Jokic are the 2 best players in the NBA regular season. However, I can't buy in. I said I wouldn't buy in. I'm not buying in. He's lost the benefit of the doubt to me because of the way he's played in the playoffs. And I've said it a million different times, and I'll say it again. But I have some stats here again I'll go through. In the last 2 seasons, he's seen his points per shot. So his points per shot is a big stat for me. He's in the 82nd percentile for big men in the regular season. He drops to 39th percentile in the 2021 playoffs. Last year, he went from the 68th percentile to the 43rd percentile. His turnover rate from the 66th percentile to the 29th percentile, and the year after that, it was 67 to 32. His effective field goal percentage, you mentioned how good it was this year, Al. Last year in the playoffs, it was in the 3rd percentile for big men in the NBA. He was terrible. He has shown too many times for me to buy his trust. I said I would not do it this year. If he proves me wrong, I'll be the happiest man on earth because I love the Sixers. I do love Joel Embiid, but he's just burned me too many times for me to invest in this point as far as what he can do in the playoffs.
And part of that burn, and I'm not going to sit here and make the excuse of it, but he wears down. He wears down after 82 games, and we've seen it year in and year out that in the playoffs he gets injured, and he's not himself. And I'm not saying that's why his numbers decrease, because for his numbers to decrease that much, I mean that from year after year, then something's wrong with the dude internally. But I mean, teams just defend him differently. They throw double teams his way. Boston throws Marcus Smart his way, God forbid. And he puts his back to the basket and turns it over and flops around like a fish out of water. So I hear you with all that. I just still am confident that Nick Nurse is the X factor that could potentially unlock a little bit of postseason success for Joel Embiid.
I want to talk about the potential moves that they can make, but I want to get into the team a little bit further. But there's another player that we need to mention based on the breakout that he's had, and that's Tyrese Maxey.
Yep.
Maxey has obviously taken the leap forward that we all hoped he would, and more so. I want to ask you straight up, is Tyrese Maxey an all-star starter for you at this point in the season?
I think he is, but I would not be offended if you told me he was not, because the way I look at it right now, there are 5 guards that potentially are going to be in contention for that starting position.
Can I guess the 5? Because I have 5 listed right here as well.
Go ahead. They're the 5 I have.
Okay. Damian Lillard.
Yep.
Tyrese Maxey.
Yep.
Jalen Brunson.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell. No.
Nope.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Yep.
Who's the other one?
I threw Trae Young in there.
Okay. I don't think they're winning enough, but he's had a nice year.
They're not winning enough, but he has had a sneakily very good year, averaging 28 and 11.
Yeah, he's been very, very good.
He's putting up empty numbers. We both know they're empty numbers.
Yeah, he lives that way.
But we made this argument before. Tyrese Halliburton's numbers are all inflated because of the offensive style that Indiana runs.
Don't get me started on Tyrese Halliburton.
He's starting to get exposed a little bit.
No, have you seen him since the play-in tournament?
Yeah, they went all in for that stupid in-season tournament.
He's out of gas. And
Yeah.
here's the thing with those Pacers is we saw the Sixers played them 2 games in a row. Their style was just run. Play games in the 130s, 140s, see what happens. You can't do it over 82 games.
No.
They're out of gas.
No.
It's clear as day.
I know you love that in-season tournament. Let's ask a Pacers fan what they think about that in-season tournament, because they just watched their team go all in for it.
And listen, I don't think Tyrese Halliburton's not a great player. I do think he's a really good player. But there are people who, especially during that in-season tournament run, were saying he was the top 3 guard in the NBA. And I don't think he's that. I think he's an all-star, but I think Tyrese Maxey's a better player than Tyrese Halliburton. And that's most people do not feel that way.
No, but now talking about all-star starters now, are you saying who I think is deserving, or who I think is going to get in based on votes? Because that's obviously 2 different conversations.
So I have both on my list. So I think Tyrese Maxey is going to start the All-Star game. I think Tyrese Maxey deserves to start the All-Star game.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Halliburton and Maxey in the backcourt. That's my perception. I think, and this is going to be I think you're going to have Lillard and Maxey. I think it should be Jalen Brunson at the other guard spot
As backups.
No, I think Halliburton and Maxey are going to start. In my opinion, it should be Brunson and Maxey.
Gotcha. Okay.
Jalen Brunson's been unbelievable. And if you look up his numbers, him and Maxey's numbers are so similar. They're almost exactly the same, with the exception of Brunson shooting 46% from 3 this year, and he's doing it on 7 threes a game. So it's not like it's low volume. And
I don't know what it is about him. I guess it's just because the Knicks have been such an awful franchise for so long that it kind of overshadows his play.
But the edge that I give to Brunson over Maxey, and this goes to the debate when we talked about where he ranked him, is Brunson's the guy.
Yeah.
Tyrese still has Joel that garners so much attention. Brunson does it as the guy. When he got paid by the Knicks, we thought it was an overpay. And he may have the best contract in the NBA at this point. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's the guy. He has some good pieces around him. Now I know Julius Randle is a polarizing figure in the NBA, but he's good, man. RJ Barrett's good. They got some talent in New York.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But there's no Joel. Brunson's the guy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's no Joel to take that pressure off. Yeah. But you could argue it the other way too. That, you know what I mean? He takes some of those buckets away from Maxey.
Sure. But I
Listen,
think the efficiency. I think without Embiid, the efficiency goes down for Tyrese.
Yeah, so I think that the starters, as far as the votes go, I do think Maxey gets in because he's going to have the Philadelphia hype train behind him. Damian Lillard, unless I'm wrong, correct me on this if I'm mistaken, he wasn't able to break into the top 2 when he was out west in Portland because he was stuck behind Steph and Luka all those years.
You're probably right. He may have started 1 or 2 games, but he was never a lock-in starter for the
No, I don't think he did start, and I think
right.
I think even before Luka, there was guys above him.
Kobe, there was a little overlap with Kobe for sure.
Yeah, he was never able to break through. And then guys like Halliburton, guys like Brunson, guys like Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, they're not going to get the votes. The markets are too small. Their names are not out there, especially guys like Mitchell and Brunson this year. Trae's gotten there before when he had that dynamite year a few years ago. I think that was 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but he also got in the year after he put on that show in the 19 playoffs when he went to the Garden. So there was a lot of hype behind Trae.
I'm just going to say he had the hype machine behind him that year. Tyrese Halliburton was trending that way until these last few games after the tournament.
I still think he gets it.
I was ready to lock him in as a clear number 1. I don't know if it's that clear anymore. I think Tyrese Maxey and Damian Lillard probably have the grips on those first 2 spots. Dame has to start showing up a little bit more, but he still has the name recognition. Sure. At the end of the day, that's the key to starting an all-star game.
There's no doubt. If I had to rank them right now, I would rank them. This is how I think most likely it will be as far as ranking: Halliburton, Maxey, Lillard, Brunson, Mitchell, or even Young. But I do think I mentioned Mitchell. I think Mitchell's far and away the 5th guy on my list.
Yeah, I don't even have him in the top 5. I have him 6th. I have Maxey, Lillard 1, 2, and then Halliburton, Brunson, Trae Young. And I think the reason is because what we said is hurting Trae. It's helping Maxey. The Sixers are winning and they're dominating, and people are you're starting to see more and more articles and more pieces on Maxey making this jump this year, and that's all helping his case.
And he's just such a fun dude. He's a fun
guy. So likable.
So I want to get into some of these potential trades for the 76ers. And before we get into specific names, I wanted to talk about what exactly I think that they need to address. And there's a lot of things I honestly think for them to be a contender to win the title. I think there's still a lot of holes in this roster. On the defensive side of the ball, I think they need somebody who can defend the ball. I don't think you have an elite defensive player who you can throw out there to go out and guard a Jason Tatum, who can go out and guard a Damian Lillard, who can go out and guard even a Jalen Brunson if somehow they match up with the Knicks. I think they need somebody there, but they also need somebody who can score. I looked last night. You cannot win in the playoffs. I promise you cannot win in the playoffs when you have 3 starters, Tobias Harris, Nick Batum, and DeAnthony Melton, who can potentially score under 10 points per game. Tobias Harris, I've given him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. He's all of a sudden lost his aggressiveness completely. He's averaging 7.5 shots in the last 7 games. He's not being aggressive at all. And if that's the case, he's useless to you.
I agree with that. I think last night, though, was an outlier game where that was the worst we're ever going to see from every other player not named Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. It all happened at once. But yes, Tobias Harris has to step up and be that clear-cut 3rd scoring option that's going to put in minimum 12 points a game, and that's got to be like worst.
But
I have no faith in Nick Batum.
I think we have to have learned by this point that if we are counting in the playoffs for Tobias Harris to be our 3rd best scorer, we're not going to win.
Yeah, well, I don't think he is. I think Kelly Oubre is.
But can you count on Kelly Oubre either in a playoff series?
I think I might be able to count on him more than Tobias Harris, only because what I see from Tobias. I'm out on Nick Batum. Nick Batum's got to go.
No. Nick Batum's a nice role player.
Nice role player, but he should not be a starter on a championship team.
I disagree. The numbers with him on the court with Joel are tremendous. And he's the only guy who could throw that entry pass to Joel. He throws a really good entry pass.
He does do that. Yeah, I agree.
But that's where you need those other guys. It's a matter of you can live with Nick Batum on your team. It's like with Johan Rojas, right? For the Phillies. I can live with Nick Batum on the court if I have those 4 other guys who can fill up the basket. If I have other guys who are not scoring the ball, then I have an issue. And the other thing is, let's not treat Batum like he's PJ Tucker. When Batum shoots the ball, it goes in the hoop.
No, PJ Tucker is poor man's Nick Batum.
That's fine. PJ
Yeah.
Tucker's getting DMP's coaching decision
Yeah.
out in LA now.
I guess my problem is what you're saying is that for me, Batum is the fifth guy out there on a starting five that has DeAnthony Melton and Tobias Harris, who have obvious offensive issues. So if we can upgrade Batum and then those guys take a step back, I would do that before trying to upgrade a Tobias or a Melton.
I would look to try and upgrade the Melton spot personally. And my fear in the playoffs with this group, and again, with talking about some of the needs, is we know Joel Embiid struggles. I don't need to get into that further. That can obviously rear its head. And to be fair, if that rears its head again, team's not going anywhere anyway, no matter who they pick up.
Right.
Tyrese Maxey, like as good as he's been, do you have concerns that when they play elite level defenses, he's going to be able to hold up for 7 games as the number 2 guy on this team, as somebody who's going to be looked to score 25 a game against elite level defenses? Do you think as a 23-year-old kid, he's ready to do that?
Of course I have concerns. He hasn't done it yet.
Right.
I mean, obviously last year in the playoffs, we saw it. His numbers dropped. He started only scoring 20 points per game. So yes, I have concerns because we haven't seen it yet. Now, obviously, he's stepped his game up. His game looks a lot more polished. The pick and roll looks a lot better with him and Joel. But until I see it, I can't bank on it happening.
Right. So you have all of a sudden now I have questions with my number 1 guy. I have questions with my number 2 guy. That's where I have a lot of concerns. When you look at a Boston, again, starting 5, I got 5 guys I can count on that could put the ball in the hoop at any given time. I don't necessarily feel that from the Sixers. So let me throw some names at you, and you just tell me whether or not you have any interest in these guys, all right?
Yep.
OG Anunoby.
I would definitely take OG. He's probably the number 1 guy I want, to be honest, because he can do a little bit of everything, and he's not going to be the kind of guy that needs the ball.
I think I'm out on OG depending on the price. So he obviously –
I'm not talking price. Price is out the window for this conversation for me.
Okay. I think as a player, he fits the mold from the defensive standpoint. Obviously, he's that ball-stopping defender, one of the best elite defenders in the league. My only issue with OG Anunoby is we've played Toronto twice in the playoffs in the last 4 years, and I don't think I've ever felt him in a series. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think you can feel him if he's alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
Possibly. I think he can fit in, but I worry about, again, you said you're not worried about price. I'm worried a little bit about price there, but I do think he would fit in good if you're just looking at it from that perspective.
Well, I know Toronto drives a hard bargain with their players, but I think possibly hopefully with the Nick Nurse relationship, maybe we can see it. And the fact that they've let guys go now so many years and got nothing in return for them with Kawhi and now with Fred VanVleet.
Yep.
I mean, at some point you got to get something for these guys that are just going to walk out of the door and leave the country.
100%. I don't know what his Masai's plan is, but I would imagine he has to get something. And that leads me to my second name is Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, I'm taking Pascal as well. Now, again, price, that's going to be a steeper price than OG Anunoby, but I'm taking Pascal. I like his game. I think he would fit in well. He's almost like a rich man's Tobias. I'm
a little worried about his shooting has fallen off a cliff this year, but I do think he brings you a little extra element as far as offensively, what he can do. Zach LaVine.
I'm out on. I was in on him early in the season, before the season, when we were talking about being desperate about getting rid of James Harden. I'm out on him now. I won't know. He's a loser.
The biggest concern about Zach LaVine is he gets hurt for the Chicago Bulls and they become a better team.
Yeah,
that should be the number 1 red flag for them. Obviously, he fits the role as that extra scorer that you need, but I don't think he brings enough to the table otherwise for me.
He's a chemistry killer.
What about his teammate Alex Caruso, who we saw last night a little bit?
I don't think I'd mind Caruso if we can get him on the cheap, because I think he gives you a little bit of a spark plug. He kind of gives you the offense that Pat Bev does not give you, but then you take away because he doesn't give you the defense that Pat Bev does give you. So in that sense, I'm not quite sure where he fits in. I don't know if he necessarily.
No, he's better defensively than Pat Bev. Is that what you said? Caruso might be the best defensive guard in the league. That's not an exaggeration. Yeah.
Well,
offensively, he's a little limited.
Okay, I haven't been up on that then. So does he step in as the starter then next to Tyrese?
I think even if he doesn't start, they split minutes for sure.
Okay.
The problem is the two things. Offensively, he's just okay. He's not bringing a lot to the table. And he's also injury prone. He gets hurt a lot. Yeah. So, but defensively, he's probably the best perimeter defender in the entire league, believe it or not.
But you could throw a headband on and we could pretend that we got him on the show.
Yeah, true. Whether we'll be brothers from a different mother, we'll bring them in. All right, a couple more for you, actually. Laurie Markkinen.
I'm in on that too, and I didn't realize he was on the block. I actually just saw that. I read a little bit about that this morning that they might be trying to move him.
Yeah,
I'm in on marking him, but I think that will be another steep price guy.
I'm surprised, and I was listening today. The thing about it is, apparently, he's voiced that he likes playing in Utah, and I don't think that Utah should be getting rid of guys that enjoy playing there because it's so hard to get guys to come in to play there. So he's young enough that they could build around. So I don't see him getting moved, to be honest with you. Two other guys, and I'm going to get to the two guys that one guy that I think is going to be the guy that we end up getting, and the other guy who is my dream get. Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart. I hadn't heard that name as a guy.
I haven't heard his name being offered, but Memphis has obviously not done well this year.
Yeah, give me Marcus Smart, man. You know how we feel about Marcus Smart in this pod. He's a dog.
Yeah. Could you imagine Marcus Smart against Boston in the playoffs?
Dude, would love it. And he's giving up all their secrets.
Yep, there's no doubt. And defensively, he gives you what he wants. Offensively, again, you're probably not getting a ton, but leadership, toughness, that's a guy that I would love on my team.
100%.
Malcolm Brogdon, any
I'll take him too.
yeah, you want everybody.
I'll take him too. Well, all these guys that you're naming are all upgrades over Pat Bev. As much as I love Pat Bev, they're all upgrades, and they're all going to become this either the third guard or the second guard if you're looking at dropping Melton in the lineup.
All right, let me give you the last two guys that I have on my list. Here's the guy I think that they're going to end up making a move for, and it's DeJounte Murray from Atlanta. And I want to give you a little bit why.
Love him too.
So DeJounte Murray has obviously not been a fit with Trae Young at the guard position. Atlanta has underachieved without question for 2 years now, and that fit just hasn't been there. The issue with DeJounte Murray is defensively, you would think a guard who has the wingspan that he does would be elite, and that was almost his reputation coming out of college. But he's been everything but. He's been almost a defensive liability for that Atlanta team. And the question becomes, is that a systemic thing in Atlanta where they all of a sudden just, they're lazy, they're losing, and he comes here and all of a sudden he lives up to his potential and he could be that guard because offensively he can be that guard that can get to the rim, he can score, he can shoot the three a little bit. Like he would be a very good fit next to Tyrese. But we still need that defensive aspect of his game. And it's just a matter of, sometimes you bring these guys into, a better system and a better environment, and you could bring that out of them. But he hasn't shown it in Atlanta at all.
No, he has not. But that's one of those moves that when it happened, it seems like everyone knew it wasn't going to work. Right. Everyone's immediate reaction was, what's Atlanta doing? So I would take the risk on a DeJounte Murray because we've seen at his peak in San Antonio what he can do. And I also think he's another guy who doesn't necessarily need the ball. I think he'll be okay playing third fiddle.
All right, let me give you my last guy. This is my pipe dream. This is the guy I would empty the clip for. I would give up all the picks that we have, including that Clippers pick down the road, which is extremely valuable.
Let me guess. Is it Mitchell?
No, I don't think that.
Well, you said
I would like Mitchell a lot, and I do think Mitchell ends up getting traded. But I look at like Mitchell and Garland, and I don't think they work well together. And I'm not sure if Mitchell and Maxey would work well together because Maxey and Garland are kind of similar players in a respect.
Okay, so then this would be uncharacteristic for you. Is it Clay?
No, Clay's toast.
Is it Buddy?
It's not Buddy. This is a guy who's probably not even being rumored to be on the market yet.
All right, go ahead.
In the offseason was, but it's Mikal Bridges.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where Brooklyn is in regards to, I know they want another star. So can the Sixers add draft quantity to them to help them get that star, whether it's a Donovan Mitchell, who they're going to be interested in for sure, or are they looking to build alongside Bridges with a guy like Mitchell because of all the other assets that they have? But you want to talk about a guy who can defend the perimeter, who can go get his own bucket, who could shoot the three, who could fill a role where, again, he's not necessarily a guard who's going to take the ball out of Maxey's hands. He can play alongside that wing. I just think it's a perfect fit. And the thing that sucks the most out is we had him on the friggin' team. We had him.
Gave him away for nothing.
For nothing. Zaire Smith and a bag of peanuts.
Yep. And he's got a house down in Avalon. He wants to come home.
Yeah, and his contract is 2 more years at $24 million a piece. It's so reasonable.
Very
He'd
friendly.
be such a perfect fit on this team. And if they got Mikal Bridges or found a way to get Mikal Bridges, that would be a way for them to, I think, become a contender because I think he's that good of a fit for what we have going on here.
Yeah, I think my pipe dream pick at this point would be Donovan Mitchell, only because that offense. Oh my god, dude, it would immediately be the best offense in the East, in my opinion. You throw Donovan Mitchell in that offense?
I do like Donovan Mitchell. I think it would be. I don't know if it would work, but if it did work, they'd be really, really good.
Yeah, they would. I don't know how you're stopping that.
I got one more name for you to keep an eye on. It's not something that I'm interested in at this point, but there's been a little bit of rumor of Draymond Green.
Yeah, I put that on Twitter. I want no parts of Draymond Green. None. Zero. Get it. Dude, he's going the Antonio Brown route. And he never had the skill that Antonio Brown had, but that dude's losing it, man.
No, I don't want Draymond either, but prime Draymond would fit so nicely on this team.
Yeah, prime Draymond, absolutely.
But I don't think they're going to make a move for the next couple of months, but something to keep an eye on. Again, they've been entertaining style of basketball. The schedule's been a little bit soft. They'll actually get a really good test tomorrow. Minnesota, I've watched a lot of. I actually watched the fourth quarter last night when they played Miami. Minnesota's really, really good. 20-5, best team in the West right now. And you want to talk about a team that defends. We'll also get a chance to see Tyrese Maxey against some elite level defense because they have guys like Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, even Ant. Ant will get up in you and defend you. And then you have Rudy Gobert at the rim. So that team's really, really good. And that'll be a good test for the Sixers because they got beaten Minnesota earlier this year without Joel. So a little bit of a revenge factor. We'll see if they can bounce back against Minnesota.
Yeah, it's crazy that Minnesota, I mean, like this Gobert and Towns experiment somehow ended up kind of working out for them. And then re-signing Naz Reid also kind of ended up working out for them, which is insane. They have all these big men and they're just playing the cards the correct way.
The biggest thing that happened to Minnesota is Karl Anthony Towns has let Anthony Edwards be the man. There's not a fight over who's one and who's two. Towns has jumped into the role as the two. He's been fine with it and let Ant do his thing. And that team is defensively has also taken off with some of those long wings. They've really committed to that side of the basketball.
Yeah. It seemed like such an easy transition too, because Cat doesn't seem comfortable as the guy, but Ant seems like a guy who embraces that spotlight.
Absolutely. I will be watching the next day as the Survivor finale for all you Survivor heads out there. It's tomorrow night. So no spoilers for me while the game.
Well, now that the Golden Bachelor is over, you can go back to devoting all of your time to Survivor.
I'm not a Golden Bachelor guy. Get the hell out of here. Any final comments on the Sixers? Do you have any other trade candidates?
No, I mentioned a couple of them there. I threw them at you, like Clay and Buddy Hield, and I saw Bojan Bogdanovic getting thrown out there. But I don't want that. Like, I don't like, a lot of every year Sixers fans seem to think that we're a shooter away. We just need a shooter. Like, it's proven that that's not the case. Get me a guy that can play some defense.
We always seem to get the guy that we think is good. And then when we get him, you're like, this guy's not really that good.
Yeah. Josh Richardson.
George Hill.
Yeah. Oh, George Hill. Terrible.
Terrible. Anything else then?
No, speaking of George Hill.
Oh, you want to lead? Is that a lead into segment 3?
Yeah, his old ass. We're gonna go right into segment 3 here.
So we're debating some different topics for segment 3. We're gonna go off the sports grid here, and we just want to have a discussion of, Al, we're getting to that age now in our late 30s where some things just suck.
Yeah,
they really do.
Life's a little harder than it was. It's not as easy to do the day to day.
So we're gonna just have a conversation about the things that suck as you get older. I'll open it up, Al, because I had one. You mentioned, even said something to me earlier before we jumped on. You said, "Are you still sick?" Because I was obviously sick last week and I had a nasty cough on the podcast. Number one for me is recovery time. And it's not just for sickness, but I remember when I was 14, 15 years old, if I get sick, it was 1 or 2 days. Now, if I get a cough, I'm coughing for 3 weeks. If I go to the gym, I'm trying to get back in shape. Obviously, since the baby's come, probably put on 10 pounds. You can see it all here.
The jowls.
Dude, I go to the gym. I'm sore for a week. And the other, like, hangovers, you want to drink? Forget about it. the recovery time for these things as you get older is a terror.
Yeah, it's a nightmare for sure. It coincides with my number one, which I'm sure you probably have on your list, is just the aches.
Yeah.
Everything hurts all the time and for extended periods and for no reason. I just live my life anymore with an ache, whether it's in my neck, whether it's I have a tension headache, my back. I've been starting to get knee issues. When I was doing a lot of running and cycling, I was getting plantar fasciitis issues, shin splint issues. It's just the aches, man, and they come and go for no reason, and there's no explanation for them. You have to work out to keep the aches away, but then, as you said, you get aches from working out.
Yeah, it's the circle of pain.
Yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm actually considering so I ran that triathlon. It was June 2022, so I haven't really done much since then, and I'm actually considering signing up for a half marathon that would be taking place this March. And I just started this morning. I got back on the bike for the first time in a couple months. And if I want to do it, I got to start getting up and running 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 miles a day. And this week's going to tell me whether or not I can actually sign up for that marathon.
You got to talk to former guest Liam DeVoe, just ran a first full marathon.
I know, I do. I have a couple runners in my life that I have to get some advice from, but they all tell you the same thing. They all say, "Oh, you can do it." There's no real advice.
Liam said it was the hardest thing he's ever done, and he prepped and he trained and he loves running. And he said there were so many times when he was ready to just call it quits and just had to dig in. I don't even like driving 26 miles. I can't imagine running 26 miles.
A full marathon is psychopath stuff, man.
Dude.
That's you're running for about 4 hours, over 4 hours.
So I live obviously near Jeffersonville Golf Course in Norristown, and my hometown is where I was born is Roxborough. It's 11 miles. So it'd be running to Roxborough, running back home, and then running about halfway back almost.
Yeah,
that's absurd.
It's sick. That's sick. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever be at the point where I do a full marathon, but the half seems like something. I need something that seems unattainable, but you know what I mean? With a little bit of work, I can get there. And I think that's the perfect medium.
Absolutely. All right. What else you have on your list?
So let's see. Getting old, never having money or time. I never have any money, and I never have any time to do anything. It's you need both, and I somehow have neither. And I think about to when I was young, and I would complain that I didn't have money when I was young, but at the time I wasn't feeding 3 kids, and at the time I didn't have a mortgage. So I don't know how I never had money, but I still don't have it. And now the time thing, dude, I'm over the course of a 7-day week. 8 to 12 hours minimum are just spent on my kids having to do things, which I'm not complaining about, but it's just time that I don't have. This podcast, like I'm preparing for the podcast, but there are some times where like I can't prepare as much as I wanted to because I just don't have the time. I just don't know where it goes.
So to that point, obviously I have a newborn now, and I never realized how much time I had before until this baby has come. I said to my wife today, I was in the office. I usually go to the office early, so I'm in there usually 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. So the baby got me up at 4:45 this morning, did a feed, stayed up. Usually I would go to work and come home and take a nap. Now I've been up since 4:45 this morning, and I'm still just ticking. And I'm sure I'll go upstairs tonight and not get much sleep tonight either. So you're right about the time aspect for sure. It's just, I mean, kids just eat away at it. And I remember back, my wife used to say, "Hey, I'm going out with so-and-so tonight, or I'm going to dinner with my girlfriends or doing this." It was the best thing in the world. Now I'm just like, no, don't go, babe. I need you here.
I remember that too. I remember Casey used to work her old floor that she was on at the hospital she works at. She used to work every other weekend, and then she used to work nights. And I was like, this is awesome. I just have guys' weekends every other weekend, play golf whenever I want, go out late, doesn't matter. As soon as we had Jackson, get off that damn floor. You better switch jobs. You better switch jobs. And she did. Within like 6 months, she moved to a new floor because it was too much. Couldn't handle it.
Yeah, Megan started back at work. She's just remote this week, but she started on Monday. So,
that's rough.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an adjustment period. So we will see how that goes. But 2 days in, not too bad. I have something that goes probably a little bit earlier than what we have. but I have metabolism. I mentioned earlier, since this baby's coming, I've been eating. I probably put on 10 pounds without question. You can work out for 2-3 months and drop that weight, but you can gain it back in a week. And when you're younger and that metabolism, you feel like you can eat anything. You go to, a Carol, eat a chicken patty, fries, cheesesteak every single day. And I would step on the scale and I was 150 pounds. Didn't matter no matter what. And I remember one day, I think it was 2012, and I stepped on the scale and it was like 180. And I was like, I don't know how that happened.
Wow, 180?
That's what I peaked at. That's the most I've ever been in my life. I'm like 175 right now.
Okay. Now, so for the listeners at home that might have never gotten to see the full build, I stand at about 5'11", and right now I weigh about 168 pounds. The biggest I got was over COVID. Over COVID, I did nothing. I ate so poorly. I was drinking more alcohol. I was up to 188 over COVID. And that was the kick that I needed to get in shape. And that's when I got into the running the triathlon. And I threw 25 pounds off in like 3 months, like you said, because I became a workaholic as far as working out, which was actually a good thing, a blessing in disguise. Right now, I haven't worked out in 2 months other than this morning. I weigh 168. My metabolism slowed a little bit, but my body, for whatever reason, is still hanging on to something from high school.
That's fantastic for you, but this kind of ties into what you just talked about earlier. Is I got back in the gym last week. I was in there for 5 days. I had good workouts. I lifted, I ran, I did everything. But then this week came and Megan's back at work. So now after work, I got to go pick up the baby at my mother-in-law's, and I'm not getting home until 4:30. It's dark. My wife is working. So now all of a sudden I'm missing 3 days in the gym, and then it's Christmas, and I'm eating everything for Christmas. And it's just like I just wasted a week. Like it's the time aspect is a huge factor as you get older.
Yeah, it's massive. And from what I understand, the only answer to this is waking up early. And I know you know me. I am not an early riser.
Never have been.
And it's been a 30+ year struggle for me to try and wake up early, and I just have not mastered it.
All right, what else you got?
All right, my next one, things that suck. So wearing clothes, and here's what I mean by that. I guess I should say picking clothes out, because we're at the age now where I can't wear things that are trendy because I look dumb because I'm old. But I also don't want to wear old person like dad clothing because I look dumb as well. So where's the in between? Like right now, I feel like this is an all right, happy medium. Like I have on just a sweatshirt and a golf hat, but like I don't know what I should be wearing these days.
I actually almost put something on here similar to that. I almost put like buying clothes, because I don't like buying clothes because, like you said, like I don't know what I'm wearing. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. So I think that's a really good one.
Should I wear skinny jeans? I don't know. Like I'm not sure.
Right. Do you want to be that guy?
Right.
Completely.
But then if I'm not wearing skinny jeans, like, do I have to wear the Lee dungarees? Like,
yeah, because you're the old. You got to wear the New Balances,
faded boot cut. Yeah, dude. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
The plaid button down.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. You just mentioned New Balance. New Balance was in for a little bit. It made a run, so that would have been trendy if I wore New Balances.
How old is your like go-to pair of sneakers?
I don't know if you know this. I have like 20 pairs of sneakers. Like I still buy sneakers like pretty regularly. The ones I wear probably most often are only a year or so old.
How about what's the oldest pair that you have that you wear?
I have a pair of LeBrons that I have because they are super comfortable. They're like my anything shoe. I just slide them on and go check the mail or go mow the lawn or something. And those are probably about 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old, maybe.
Gotcha. I have some shoes that are at least 10 to 12 years old that I'll still wear.
That you still wear. So that's the key. Like I have a pair of I have KDs right here that are just sitting here.
I have those same shoes. I used to.
Do you really?
I don't have them anymore. Threw them out, but yeah, I used to. They used to be my basketball shoes.
They're tight.
Yeah, they're nice shoes.
I don't like them though. They squeeze my foot. So these, how old are these? You know then. So these are probably about 12 to 15 years old.
Yeah, they're older than 10 years. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know these are the 5s, but I bought them about 15 years ago, and I never wear them just because I don't like the fit. But I'm keeping them because they're Springfield's colors. So, like, as Jackson gets older, I could rock some yellow and blue Springfield color sneakers.
Isn't this what we just talked about? What you can be, you should and shouldn't be wearing?
I know.
All right, let me get into one. This also kind of ties into a little bit with what you're saying earlier. And actually, I got a text from a buddy about it the other day. I'm sure you guys have a savings account. You know, I have a savings account. We're at the age where we've made some money. We have some money stored away. But the question is, like, what do I do with some of this money? Like, that I'm just sitting in my bank account. Should I be investing it? Should I have it in a Roth IRA? Should I be putting more into my 401k? Should I have my own stocks? Should I be buying bonds? Like, put it in a savings account with 4%? Like, what do you do with this money that's just sitting there? Maybe we need a sponsorship from a financial advisor. Maybe that's what I'm trying to hint at here.
Yeah.
But I think, like, again, these are first world problems, but like knowing what to do with your extra money that's sitting there, I think that's like, what do you do with it?
Well, the rule of thumb, if I'm not mistaken, is you want to have 6 months of income stored away as an emergency fund, and you want to keep that in just a savings account that's readily available. Like, you can pull that out in a moment's notice. And then I think everything on top of that goes into stocks, your Roth, your 529 for Hayden, and everything else.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, what do you? I don't know. Like,
I don't know either. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. We go heavy on the retirement and the college funds, and I think that part of that is because neither Casey and I both had a lot of college debt when we got out of school, and we don't want to send our kids up that river. Now, we're not paying for their entire tuition, but we'll make sure that they have at least some put away by the time they get to being 18 years old.
I'm lucky enough to have a pension, so I'm not as concerned. Like, obviously, that'll help a ton. I'm sure you do too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, I do too.
Yeah, so that's huge for retirement, I would think.
I actually worry about that. I worry that I might be putting a little bit too much away in retirement, and so I'm not able to enjoy things now as much as I want to because I'm trying to save for the future. That's actually a conversation I had to have with my my investment guy. I do have a financial planner.
Do you?
Yeah, Stephen Bach.
Maybe we get him on the pod. Have a financial segment.
We'll have a conversation about Stephen after the show's over.
All right. What else you got?
So one more thing I have here is my resistance to technology.
I was thinking about that.
I don't like. I embrace technology. I use it. I feel like I'm pretty adaptable as far as like social media. I can figure things out. But I definitely don't use technology to its full capacity in the year of 2023. I don't know about you. I have no like Alexa or any of those like Bluetooth speakers set up in my home. I don't have like a Ring camera. I don't have Bluetooth thermostat. I don't have I don't use text, speech to text, like all these things that would definitely make my life easier. I don't use any of them, and I have no interest in either learning how to use them or starting to use them.
So I think, obviously, having worked with you on this podcast, you know that whatever skills you have are way above the skills that I have. Because I'm always the one asking you, how do I work Instagram? How do I do a reel? What do you mean I got to pull this over from Snapchat? So I feel you on all that. And that's one of the ultimate make you feel old stuff when you don't know how to work the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I threw a video up for my class today, and I used YouTube Shorts to put it up. And one of the kids was like, "Oh, Mr. Ryan, you're a YouTube Shorts guy?" And I was like, well, "What do you want? I'm putting a video on the screen." And I got dogged for that, like because I didn't put up a TikTok video.
You should pull up the TikTok.
Yeah, because YouTube Shorts is just the old person version of TikTok. So is Instagram Reels.
Interesting.
But I don't even have TikTok. I've never downloaded it on my phone.
I don't have TikTok either.
And I do know some people our age, that do have TikTok.
Certainly.
I don't know if he's still in the chat.
I get a text message from some of my friends who send me TikToks.
Yeah, Matt McConaughey. I don't know if he's still in the chat right now, but he damn sure has TikTok.
He's a TikToker?
Yeah, he's sending me videos every now and then.
I think it's a little sketchy to be on TikTok at this age.
Well, I've talked to people that have it, and they try to tell me that there's a lot of good stuff on there, like, just like anything else, the algorithm tunes into your interests.
Right.
So we would probably see like, golf videos on there and cooking or whatever else. Maybe podcast videos. Maybe we can spruce up the pod.
Maybe we need to do something like that. All right. I have a couple more. Is that it for you? You said.
Let me look real quick.
Okay.
I had pillows, so something that sucks about getting old. I have to use certain pillows. Do you have the hip pillow that goes in between your legs?
No, but I had to when I had my back issues earlier this year. My chiropractor recommended to put a pillow between my legs.
Life-changing pillow. It's super uncomfortable for like a week or two, as you could attest to. Now I can't sleep without it.
Really? I got rid of my. I don't use it, but it didn't bother me that much when it was between my legs.
It took me a while to get used to, but now, like I said, if I don't have it, I have to sleep on my back. I can't sleep on my side without it anymore.
Was it for your back? Was it for your back?
Back and hips.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't understand. What does it do though?
It keeps your spine more aligned when you sleep. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I came to this conclusion a few years ago that I don't think you really know anything about life until you're about 26 or 27 years old.
I think it's later than that.
Do you?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think at 27, it starts to sink in that, a lot of it's not about not about what you know. It's about who you know. It's about connections in the workplace, how you're going to get to certain places. Working hard doesn't always pan out for certain people, etc. What to do with your money, buying a house, this and that. Dealing with people under that age is really tough as you get older because you listen to them talk and they think they know it all, especially between the ages of like 21 and 26.
Gen Z.
And it's really, really tough to listen to those people as you get older and just be like, all you can be like is you'll see. Like that's the only answer that you can give is you'll see.
Well, and just saying this though is, something that sucks about being old because it's not like the generations before us didn't say this about us.
100%. We were those people. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Cyclical.
It is. It's crazy.
Well, no, I agree with you. It is tough, but I think that it's a little later. I think you hit that realization a little bit later. That maturity comes maybe in your 30s. I loved my 20s. I had a lot of fun, but I'm definitely peaking in my 30s and in my mid to late 30s.
Well, once the podcast started, that was peak Al.
Yeah, me posting reels of pretending to be John Rahm. That's peak Al.
Johnny Rahm
and not knowing the Bengals coach.
You've more or no?
The last thing I have on my list is and this is something that I've always struggled with, but even more so now, it's remembering names.
Oh, so bad.
Just absolutely dreadful at it. I have no shot. I give so many hey buds, hey pal, all the time. To the Delco listeners out there, I apologize. I've probably forgotten all of your names at least 10 times. But I will, to my credit, or I don't know how to put this, but I'm the only Asian guy with the beard. I'm pretty easy to remember, I feel like. But when I'm talking to just Irish Catholic guy, that gets a little bit difficult, man.
And the problem is, and I don't know if you go through this, is when you're not good at the names, you could be 97% sure on somebody's name, but you have that doubt.
Doubt yourself.
And you'll call them by a name. I'll call somebody by their name 6 or 7 times, and I'll see them 3 weeks later, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm not sure if this is the right name.
Yep. 100%.
And we have neighbors who moved in a year and a half ago, and they have 2 younger kids, probably like 12 and 7. I forget their names all the time. And they're my next door neighbors.
Well, and just wait until Hayden's older and has friends. And now you got to remember his friends' names too.
Yeah. And the friends' parents' names.
It gets very difficult.
Yeah. That's always tough. A simple one we don't have to get into is just bills. Just having bills for everything.
Yeah, but I will say, thank God we live in the era we do now with the technology, actually, because it's all an automated process.
Yes. Could you imagine like writing checks for everything?
Absolutely not.
Terrible. 2 more I have. Very similar to what I just said with bills. Spending money on non-value items. For instance, when I'm like buying the filter for the air conditioning unit.
Yeah.
I paid to $65 to my trash company to dispose of a television. Shit like that just drives me up a wall. That sucks so much. And the other thing that my wife kind of said, even though it doesn't really suck, it's weird that when you buy a household item that brings you joy, like buying a new vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that sucks, but it's weird.
Yeah, Casey, when we got our new vacuum cleaner like a year ago, she was like through the moon.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Actually, I have 2 more. There's one other one I wanted to add in here. I'm trying to do anything athletic. And what I mean by that is I was a decent athlete. I wasn't exceptional by any means, but I played quarterback for, co-ed sports throughout my 20s, played baseball growing up. I pitched. When I try and throw a ball now, because I haven't thrown in so long, I can't find the slot. And I throw my ball, it goes all over the place. And I'm almost embarrassed to try and throw a ball. And sometimes my wife will throw me shit in the house and I'll drop it. And it's just I'm nowhere near the coordination or the athletic skills of what I had 10 years ago.
So a couple quick stories. I helped coach 8th grade girls softball a few years ago. And the head coach said, "Hey, can you go over there and just hit some balls to the girls in the outfield?" Dude, I've never done pepper with ever, let alone now I got to do it for the first time. So I tried one. I hit one, little short dribbler, went to nobody, right? So I threw another one up, hit another one, bombed it to left. I'm not saying that to brag. I hit it over their heads. I'm
right. You couldn't dial it in.
I had no way to just get it to these girls. Finally, a girl was like, "Do you want me to do it?" And I was too prideful to say yes. So I just started throwing balls to them.
How sore were you the next day?
So sore, dude. That was so embarrassing. So embarrassing. But then just the other day, I was playing, having a catch with Jackson out back. And he was like, "All right, just let's do kickoffs. You throw it to me and I'll try to run past you and you tackle me." And I'm taking it easy. I'm obviously I can catch most of the time. Dude, he's only 7. And there were some times where if he just went one way and then sprinted the other way, I couldn't get him. Because it was too fast. I was too scared I was going to fall over or tear an Achilles.
And it's hard because you want to be able to do it.
Yep. You don't want to admit that it's over, but it's over.
It's beyond over. All right, last one. And this one I'm curious because we are very different in this perspective. I obviously gave up drinking a while ago. What is your feeling when you get a wedding invitation now?
Oh, funny you should say that. We went to 2 weddings. It was for our cousins, and they were back to back. And because they were back to back, we were like, shit. But in general, I'm okay. I'm good with a wedding. I'm still having a lot of fun at a wedding. Okay. It depends totally on whose wedding it is.
Right. So, but in my 20s, it didn't matter whose wedding it was.
Right.
I was going to having a good time. Yeah. Now it's just shit. I got to go to this wedding or somebody will get engaged and I'll just be like, oh my God. I can't believe this is coming my way soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is that childcare, that all of a sudden you're like, oh, we got to get somebody to watch the kids. Do we have to go overnight? Can we Uber? So all that comes into play. But generally speaking, I'm happy to go to a wedding. I'm a wedding guy. I'm a dancer. I'm a drinker. I'm a talker. I'm going to have fun at a wedding.
That's your element there.
Yeah.
All right, that's right. Listen, man, we ain't going to get any younger, so I guess we got to get used to all these things, or maybe we'll have the same conversation in 10 more years, and it'll be 10 different things.
Yeah, the sands of time are ticking. And double for our absentee friend, Chris, who I'd imagine having twins ages you twice as fast.
Yeah. I think in 10 years, we'll probably be talking about colonoscopies and shit like that.
We spoke of one earlier today. One of my Jackson's basketball coach is actually getting a colonoscopy. So practice was canceled tonight because of that. Shout out Coach Burt.
Hope he's doing all right. On that note, we'll wrap it up. We're going to hope that our Eagles get back on the winning track this weekend so we can have a little bit more positive conversation. But also want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and let's hope maybe, listen, as teachers, we have a break coming up. So could next week be the week that Chris comes back?
We will find out. Don't count your chickens.
Even if it's just a 1 week, you know what I mean?
I think if I lose to him in the fantasy playoffs, I'm not going to let him come back. So we'll have to see how that plays itself out before we make an executive decision at this point.
All right. Sounds good. Right. Well, I guess I don't know if I'm hoping to see him or not then.
But until then, we're going to drop that beat.